Okay, so today we're going to talk about it's still chemistry, but I should say it's more biochemistry than just chemistry today. Chemistry it's a very like broad science field. You know, there are different like subdivisions in chemistry, and one of the general divisions in chemistry is inorganic versus organic. So organic, first of all, nothing to do with, whenever you hear like organic products, it's completely different. So organic basically means molecules that are more common in living organisms than in non-living. And organic chemistry is pretty much about, it's a lot about carbon, okay? So let's talk about carbon. This is chapter 4. And then we're gonna talk about organic molecules, which is gonna be like more close to biochemistry. Chapter 4, chapter 5, as I said, it's still chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry. Next week, it's gonna be cell. So we kind of like moving towards like pure biology. But understanding this topic is pretty much crucial for the whole entire course. Because even, you're talking about the level of cells, and we're gonna talk about things like photosynthesis. We're gonna talk about cellular respiration. It still will go down to like molecules, organic molecules. So let's talk about carbon first. And just a second. I forgot what these monkeys do, but they're really cute. But okay, here. So carbon, yes, it's a very special molecule, and it's a molecule that in the heart of all molecules of life. So carbon is number 6, okay? And you know what, for a second, I'll switch to whiteboard, just to remind you. So C is carbon. And as I said, it's number 6, which means that it has 6 protons in the nucleus. Usually it has 6 neutrons, but there are carbon isotopes as well. Then in the first shell, there are 2 electrons. Yes, first shell is always 2 electrons. And the second shell, there are 4 electrons. So 4 electrons, for how many electrons it has room? For how many more?
4.
Exactly, 4. So there's something again we call valence. Valence is 4, so carbon can make 4 bonds, right? So if you take, for example, 4 more electrons from the hydrogen, you get CH4, and this is methane, right? But what's really interesting about carbon that, it can actually bind other elements. It can bind hydrogen, it can bind oxygen, it can bind, what else can bind? It can bind many things, but carbon really tends to form chains. Okay. So it tends to bind with another carbon, and molecule might have 2 carbons in the core. Molecule can have 5 carbons, 4 carbons, 10 carbons, 20 carbons. It really depends on the molecule. But carbon, again, is known well to form these long chains. It doesn't have to bind anything actually else. It doesn't have to bind other elements. Carbon itself pretty much, is a substance, right? So where can you find pure carbon? Tell me. What is the pure carbon? I don't have it here with me. Oops, no. Guys, anyone has an idea of pure carbon? Okay, when you burn something, what do you get? Something that is completely burned. You burn paper.
Ash.
Ash, yes, ash is a pure carbon actually. Another thing made of carbons that is related to ashes, anyone knows? Diamonds, yes, diamonds. Ashes and diamonds. It's the same carbon. It's just like in the ashes, there's the way atoms of carbon organized, basically they are disorganized. But in diamonds, there are particular, there are specific structures that carbon atoms organized into. And the bonds between the atoms of carbon and diamonds are extremely strong. They're so strong that what can you do with a diamond? Diamond can cut
almost anything.
Yes, exactly. Diamonds can cut glass, right? For example. Yes, so very, very strong. Now, diamonds, the bonds are like this is called the crystals, right? So these bonds could be formed under very specific conditions, high temperature and high pressure, right? High temperature, high pressure. So diamonds basically grow very, very deep inside the earth. So where they could be found, actually, if they develop very deep inside the earth, where people can't find diamonds? Next to what?
Volcanoes.
Exactly, absolutely. Next to volcanoes, yes, like the diamond mines. And you know what? Diamonds are not that rare, even though, again, you should dig next to volcanoes to find them. They're not that rare. And I read once that it's actually, prices are inflated for diamonds. Can you make a fake diamond?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone knows how fake diamonds are called?
Cubic zirconium?
Exactly. Yes, zirconium. Yes, that's a fake diamond. Yeah, like people learn to create the same conditions in the lab. Kind of like replicate conditions inside the earth, right? High temperature, high pressure. It takes a month actually to grow zirconium, but it's absolutely possible. Now, the last thing, diamonds can be of different colors, right? What can be the colors?
Pink,
Pink,
black.
black, exactly, yes. Very rare, like natural, very, very rare.
I want to say clear, but kind of not clear. It's like white, I guess. It's the basic diamond, right?
Yeah. So it's actually, there are also some traces of other elements that can give different colors. So copper can give a little bit bluish color. I've got other elements, but it's basically if there's like also mix of other elements into the crystals, the color will like be different from the basic clear whitish color for diamonds. I mean, it's not really white, I should say, again, like more like clear, crystal clear. Okay, so that's about carbon. That is like unique property to form bonds, four bonds. Again, bonds could be formed with other elements, but also within the molecules, organic molecules, you can always find like a chain of carbons bound to each other. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. So you see, carbon can bond to other carbons, forming carbon skeletons. And it could be also bound to hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. And what you can see here, you see the black circles. This is a carbon. Red is oxygen, blue is nitrogen, whitish is hydrogen. And this is a molecule of dopamine, right? This is one of their most interesting neurotransmitters in our nervous system. And dopamine is responsible for many, let's say, many features in our behavior. But for example, it also promotes mother-infant bonding as well. So this is a molecule of dopamine. And organic chemistry basically studies compounds that have carbon. And we can skip the Stanley Miller. I want you to read it on your own. How like he created organic molecules in the lab. We skip it. We're going to talk about. We'll get back to this later on. And okay. So one thing that I want to add here is that inorganic molecules, basically, you have to find carbon and at least one hydrogen. That's pretty much definition of organic molecule, okay? So my question to you, is water organic molecule?
Yes.
No. Water is H2O. So I said carbon and at least one hydrogen. So water is not
No.
organic. What about carbon dioxide, CO2? Is it organic?
No.
Yes.
Nope. As I said, carbon and at least one hydrogen. So CO2, which is actually produced by living organisms, is not considered an organic molecule, okay? But for example, if I write this, is this organic?
Yes.
Anyone knows what is this formula? Does anybody know what is this formula?
Yeah.
This is ethanol. Ethanol, which is also known as alcohol. Another feature of organic molecules is that they can burn. Okay. The good example of inorganic substances, like think about rocks. Rocks are inorganic, right? Can you burn rocks?
No.
No, you can't burn rocks, right? Can you burn alcohol?
Yes.
Easily. Yes. Can you burn oil,
Yes.
which is organic? Yes. Can you burn paper, which is a cellulose, organic?
Yes.
Yes. Can you burn water, which is inorganic?
No.
No.
No. Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong. This is not the only way to differentiate. And some inorganic materials actually could be burnable, right? But basically, but you can basically burn all organic molecules, all of them, right? Okay, now, as I said, carbons form chains, right? It doesn't have to be a line, right? It doesn't have to be straight chain. Sometimes in organic molecules, carbon can form squares, pentagons, hexagons, octagons, and so on, right? It really depends on the molecule. And ability to form chains and vary in number of carbons and forming different shapes is pretty much what attributes to diversity of organic molecules. I think organic chemistry is kind of chemistry that I can never study it in full. There will always something else to learn about because of this diversity. I should say like endless diversity. So let's take a look here. Methane, right? It's one carbon, 4 hydrogens, right? The molecule is shaped like a pyramid, pretty much. That's how their electron shells actually go around. This is like space filling model. This is one of the simplest organic molecules. Ethane. Ethane is 2 carbons, right? And there's a single bond between carbons and hydrogens. And interestingly, again, like 2 pyramids facing each other. Now, carbon can actually form double bonds with each other, right? Double bonds somehow makes this molecule like more like flat, right? Rather than like 3D, 2 pyramids facing each other. This is ethylene. I told you about the valence, right? So hydrogen, basically, the valence is 1 because it can share only 1 electron, right? Oxygen is 2 because it can pick up 2 electrons. Nitrogen is 3, it has room for 3 electrons. And carbon, I already showed you, is 4, it can pick up 4 electrons. That's pretty much what's valence is number of bonds the element can form. Carbon can form 4 bonds. And this is carbon dioxide. So what you can see here, right? So it has 4 rooms, right? So it picked up 2 electrons from one oxygen, 2 electrons from another oxygen. Forming bonds with 2 electrons is double bond, right? With 1 electron is 1 line, 2 electrons is 2 lines. It's a double bond. This is urea. This is a waste product that our body produces to get rid of nitrogenous wastes, right? And what you can see in urea, carbon forms double bond with oxygen, single bond with each of the nitrogens, and each nitrogen form triple bonds. Carbon, another hydrogen, another hydrogen. This is urea. It's actually quite simple molecule. And by the way, this is the first organic molecule ever synthesized in lab. Okay, so chemistry, I should say, was developing a little bit earlier than biology, right? And I think it's the beginning of 19th century when the first time organic molecule was made in the lab, and it was urea. And as I said, they can make chains. They can make shapes, variety of shapes. These are sex hormones, human sex hormones, estradiol and testosterone. We can see they closely resemble each other. You see the difference? Here in this hexagon is hydroxyl group. This is estradiol, right? And testosterone has a double oxygen band in CH3 group, right? And that's what makes a difference, right? Huge difference, actually, in terms of effects on the human body. And let me just show you something. Don't really get overwhelmed. It's just pay attention, like, to varieties of shapes. And I told you it's endless possibilities, right? You're familiar with the propane, right? Guys, you know what's propane. What is that? When do you use propane?
You're like
Barbecue?
barbecue.
Exactly, yes. Yes, look, you see, actually molecules, organic molecules that have long, no, it's not a very long chain. Okay, organic molecules that it's called like, that have multiple bonds with hydrogen, they can release a lot of energy when you burn them. So oils that are made of fatty acids kind of also have this long carbon chains with hydrogen. Oils burn pretty much as well, as good as a propane can burn. Maybe propane is better. Okay, this is a butane. When you see double bonds, they don't have that much energy locked as single bonds here, right? You can see branches, you can see rings. This is benzene, which is one of the major molecules in gasoline, the benzene, by the way, right here. So hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons, as I said, these are organic molecules that have hydrogen and carbon and hydrogen. And as I just told you, they can release a lot of energy, like propane and fatty acids. So they can see this, this is actually alcohol molecule called glycerol, right here, the red one. But these are fatty acids that also have hydrocarbons, like big part of fatty acid is a hydrocarbon. And this is how fat is stored, right? Like this is human fatty cell. And that's how energy is locked inside these molecules, right? So whenever you need this energy to be released, right, you just break them down. And there's something I want you to understand. It's called isomers. Isomers are molecules that have absolutely the same formula, but they can differ in structure. And it actually plays quite an important role, no matter what. So in organic chemistry, it's not only about what you're made of. In organic chemistry is how you are made of, like what's your structure rather than the content. So we're going to talk about three types of isomers: structural isomers, cis-trans isomers, and enantiomers, which are quite interesting molecules, very, very interesting molecules. So let's take a look structural isomers. Pentane and 2-methylbutane. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this is C5H10. C5H10, this is the same C5H10, but you can see that structure of this molecule is different. So they're called structural isomers, the same formula, but different structure. Cis-trans isomers, the same formula, but you see these two axes are on the same side. This is cis isomer. Trans isomers, two axes are on the opposite side. You probably heard about trans fats. Have you heard about them?
Yeah.
Basically, when you heat certain molecules, they change configuration and they go from cis to trans form. And trans are actually, you know, in terms of their biological properties are not the same, and they are actually can cause more damage than the cis forms, okay? So geometric isomers, because it's about the position, okay? It's not about much structure, but the position of certain groups within the molecule. Enantiomers are mirror images, and it actually matters. It's interesting, but it matters, okay? Like your right and left hands, right? They look the same, but they're not the same. L isomer and D isomer are not the same, okay? So these are enantiomers. And it's said in your book that are quite important in pharmaceutical industry, because being mirror image of each other, they can have different effects, okay? You see, sometimes only one of them can be biologically active and another one not at all. So like here, for example, ibuprofen, right? And this is effective enantiomer, right? This is S ibuprofen. And the mirror image is R ibuprofen, which is not effective at all, right? Albuterol, which is actually also has a mirror image, right? One is effective medication and another one is not. And the last thing pretty much is what's called functional groups. So functional groups are groups that attach to the carbon core and they pretty much define the organic molecule. It could be one single group, it could be multiple groups, but that's pretty much what organic chemistry is about. It's about the carbon core and what functional groups are attached, because these functional groups define the properties of the molecule. So let's take a look. Let me just make it larger. So let's say you have a carbon core, right? And hydroxyl group is OH group. When OH group is attached to the core, the name of these compounds are alcohols. This is ethanol, but if, for example, you have only one carbon with a hydroxyl group attached, this is methyl. Methyl is also alcohol, but by the way, if you can drink ethanol, methyl will kill you if you drink that one. Yeah. First it's gonna make you blind and then gonna kill you. But ethanol, yes, you can drink, but be careful with this one if it's too pure, right? And all alcohols, they have interesting properties again. First of all, they have very low heat capacity. They burn easily, they burn fast, they have very particular smell. Just having this group attached. If their functional group has double bond with oxygen, this is called carbonyl group. This is called ketones and aldehydes. You all know this one, acetone, right? Acetone is what? What is acetone, guys?
Poison?
Nail polish remover.
Thank you, exactly. It's a nail polish remover. Did you ever try to burn acetone? Please don't, guys, don't. It just burns like in a flash. Okay, so this is acetone. What's also known well about actually alcohols and acetones, like ketones, they are very good solvents, right? Sometimes if you have a stain, right, you can remove it using, especially like, I don't know, from markers, right? Markers, they also kind of like, I think their fluid for markers is also dissolved in some alcohol as well. But did you ever try to remove stains with acetone? Nail polish remover, guys? It actually works. Okay, this is propanol, this is aldehyde. Aldehyde is double bond with carbon and oxygen and hydrogen. If you have only one carbon, not two, not three, but one, this is formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is a substance that, for example, in biology, certain specimens are preserved in formaldehyde. Yes, guys, are you with me?
Yes.
1 second. Guys, how do you keep up with their, I'm gonna answer your chat like messages, I promise you, I will. Let me just finish this. Like we have a few more slides for this one. Any questions? If you feel lost with organic chemistry or not? Basically, we are getting to the point where it actually matters what organic chemistry is about. So the major two concepts, carbon can make 4 bonds. Second concept, carbon can make chains. The third concept we're talking about right now is that what is attached to this carbon core is called functional group, and that's what defines the molecule. And we're talking about different functional groups that give different properties to organic compounds. Any questions here, please? Yes. Yes? Okay. So carboxyl group. Carboxyl group is a double bond with oxygen and single bond with a hydroxyl group, sometimes called COOH. That actually group makes them acids. Remember we talked about acids last week, right? So this is acetic acid. This is acetic acid that lost hydrogen, right? But I want you to pay attention to this carboxyl group because we're going to talk about amino acids. And amino acids, they have quite unique properties in biology and biochemistry. So carboxyl group. Amine group. Amino group is an H2, right? You see here is glycine, it's another amino acid. Amino acids, they have both carboxyl and amino groups, okay? So this is glycine. If you have sulfur and hydrogen attached, this is called sulfhydryl group. This is, for example, thiol. This is the group of the substances, thiols. And this is another amino acid called cysteine. In amino group, like sulfur is quite important element in chemistry and biology, and sulfur quite often is found also within amino acids. Phosphates. Phosphates are super common group, okay? This is organic phosphate group. This, for example, glycerol phosphate, but we're gonna talk about molecule. I'm sure you heard about ATP. Yes, have you heard about ATP? This is the molecule has 3 phosphate groups, and this is their energy molecule, the most important energy molecule in biology. And this is methyl group, this which basically methylated compounds, CH3 carbon with 3 hydrogens, and it's a very interesting group that sometimes kind of like turns on molecules or turns them off. Whenever this is attached, for example, to DNA molecule, which has your genetic material, methyl group can mark genes for activity, for example. So it's like a biological marker group, methyl group. So, but basically here, I think for us, quite important, the carboxyl group, amino group, phosphate groups. These are 3 important because you're gonna hear about them like shortly for the second part of the class. Come on. Okay, and this is what I was talking about. Okay. ATP, right? ATP is their energy currency molecule in living organisms, in cells. Please get to know this, adenosine triphosphate or ATP. So it has a molecule called adenosine. It doesn't matter what is the structure of adenosine, and 3 phosphate groups attached. In a reaction with water, right? 1 phosphate can go away, right? And it goes from adenosine triphosphate to adenosine diphosphate, D2, right? When this phosphate groups leaves, a lot of energy is released. This molecule is called like energy currency in your cells, right? Basically, the whole reaction of respiration is about to produce ATP molecules. We're gonna talk about this. you need ATP for pretty much everything, right? So you can say you need oxygen and food to produce ATP. And you need ATP as a fuel just to keep your cells running, okay? This is it about introduction to carbon, okay? So that was chapter 4. I mean, should I ask you for questions? Should I? Oh, I shouldn't. It's gonna be useless. Okay, so listen to me, guys. It's 9:28, so 15 more minutes. We're gonna start the next chapter, and then we're gonna take a break. Okay, I'll give you 15 minutes break from 9:45 to 10. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
So I can close this one, and I can go to this one. Okay. Let's skip this. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about 4 basic groups of organic molecules that are relevant to us, relevant to cells, right? But before we can actually talk about these groups, there is something I want you to understand, that in cells, in living organisms, like molecules that pretty much like make a core of the cells are complex molecules. These are large molecules. And these large molecules quite often made of repetition of smaller molecules. Small molecule, like a single unit, is called monomer, okay? For example, if we're talking about large molecules called proteins, the molecules that make up proteins are called amino acids, and they are monomers. It's like, you see, you have like a chain, right? So the whole entire chain is made of units called monomers, right? So when you have repetition of monomers, you have the whole entire chain, it's called the polymer, okay? When we eat, for example, right, we get, what kind of molecules we get with the food? Can you tell me? I'm sure you know. No, when you eat bagels, what kind of molecules you have in bagels?
Glucose?
Yes, glucose is a monomer, but the complex molecule you find in bagel is called starch. I'm sure you heard about carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So you can say like carbohydrates, they are polymers, right? Glucose is a monomer. When you eat butter, what do you eat?
Fat?
Fats,
Yeah.
right? So fats made of molecules called fatty acids, right? If you eat meat, you eat what?
Protein?
Exactly, you eat proteins. Protein is a polymer amino acid that makes up, like amino acids make up proteins, they are monomers, okay? So the whole entire molecule is a polymer. The single units that make up this molecule are called monomers, okay? And for example, the same goes for nucleic acid, right? DNA, RNA, right? So they are polymers, and the units that make up polymers called nucleotides, okay? So that's what we're gonna talk about right now. We're gonna talk about complex molecules, simple molecules, and their properties, and their function in the cells and living organisms, okay? So polymers, also known as macromolecules, and you know what's really interesting? Interesting thing happens. We acquire these molecules with the food, right? You agree with me? We eat carbs, we eat proteins, we have fats. And by the way, whenever you eat fruits and veggies, actually like whatever it comes from living organisms, also definitely meat and eggs, you also take nucleic acids as well, right? The function of our digestive system is to break down these macromolecules or polymers into monomers, right? Your cells can take in large molecules. Your cells can take in only simple, small molecules. And then your cells build their own large ones, okay? It's like you take chain, right? Break it down to links and then use these links to build another chain, okay? That's what pretty much happens that's what happens in our digestive tract, right? That's what happens in all living organisms that acquire complex molecules, break them down to simple, and use the simple to build new complex. Any questions here? Guys?
So basically, our cells can't take in big molecules, so it only takes in small molecules, and then.
Yes, for example, if you eat, let's say you eat an egg, right? Egg is a good source of proteins, right? So this protein is made of simple molecules called amino acid. So your stomach will break down these proteins to amino acids. Your cells will take these amino acids and build your proteins. You know, it's going to be a good analogy. Let's say, guys, do you like Legos? I mean, you're kind of like grown-ups for Legos, but I know some people still like them. Do you like them?
I used to.
Okay. So what did you like to make of Legos? What kind of Legos did you like to make? Did you like planes or trucks or what?
Anything that I could make, which is usually nothing. It would just be a square. I'm not creative.
Okay, so let's say let's say somebody gave you a truck made of Lego, right? Yes. So you decided that you didn't like this truck, so you took it apart, right? You broke it apart, and then you took these pieces and made another truck, your truck that you liked. So that's basically what your cells do, what your body does. It takes big molecules, break them down, and make new molecules out of them, out of these units. Okay? Is it a good analogy to explain?
Yeah, I get it now. You just make your own version of that protein. So
You make your own versions of pretty much everything, yes. Yes, so you take these large molecules as their supply, right? You break them apart and you make everything your own version, exactly. Okay, so how you make polymers and how you break them down. And that's actually one of the reasons why we need water, so much.
Yes,
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be with you.
the store, which is 362, I put my analysis.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Okay, so yes, change of location. Let me go back to share screen. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why we need water. And we're also going to talk about molecules called enzymes. So enzymes are proteins. These are protein molecules. And these molecules basically act like tiny chemists in your cells, because enzymes are molecules that can actually conduct chemical reactions, all sorts of chemical reactions. And one of them is reactions that they can either build polymers or break them down. So to build or break them down, two reactions. If you want to break them down, this reaction is called dehydration. So dehydration, you see, not to break them down, to build them, to build them. Synthesis, right? So you see two molecules. And the end of one molecule, you see H. On the other molecule, you see hydroxyl group. So dehydration, basically, these two parts are removed and the water molecule is made, right? But once you remove water molecule, you build bonds between these two units, okay? So you get a longer polymer. If you want to break them down, you add water molecule, right? So you do exactly the opposite, and these two molecules will be separated. So please, dehydration to link. Hydrolysis is to break, okay? So one more time, that's how water plays a role actually in either building or breaking polymers, okay? So let's actually watch this video. Can you hear, guys? Let me just, I'll try to make it as loud as possible. Can you hear, guys?
No, not really. Not for me.
None? Okay, so, then let's, okay. It's pretty much what I explained to you. You can watch it later on your own. So, diversity of polymers. Again, we're gonna talk about 4 groups. And let me just switch to whiteboard right now. We have monomers. Monomers build polymers. So today I'm going to talk about what's called molecules of life. So these are molecules of life. 4 basic groups. We have monomers called simple sugars. And of simple sugars, the most important molecule for us actually is a molecule of glucose. You're going to see it. Simple sugars build polymers called carbohydrates. Or we call them carbs, right? You're all familiar with carbs, carbohydrates. There are molecules called fatty acids. Fatty acids build large molecules called fats. Another name for fats is lipids. Okay. There are molecules called amino acids. Amino acids build complex molecules called proteins. There are molecules called nucleic acids. And nucleic acids, you all know DNA, RNA. They build polymers called, I'm sorry, I messed up, guys, I'm sorry. A molecules called nucleotides, just reversed it. Yes. Nucleotides. So nucleotides build nucleic acids. nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. Okay. So these are like 4 groups, and that's what we're basically going to discuss in the next part of the class. So let me just switch to, let me switch to this one. And again, just keep in mind that these 4 groups are not like, I mean, there are much more than these 4 groups, but these are the most relevant to us. And we're gonna talk about carbs, right? So carbs are molecules, large molecules, right? And carbs are the major source of energy to us, okay? So we take carbs pretty much as a basic fuel for ourselves, right? And I already mentioned starch, right? So starch is the most common carb in our diet. And before I take a break, I just want to hear from you one more time. What kind of foods are rich in starch? Tell me.
Potatoes.
Absolutely.
Rice.
Rice. Excellent. What else?
Corn.
Corn. Very good. Because if you go to the grocery store, right, it's corn starch, right? Absolutely. What else?
Bagels or bread.
Bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, beets, and last thing, you know, sugar. Sugar is not it's not the real, like, I mean, it's a carb, but it's actually only 2 molecules linked together. It's a molecule of glucose and fructose. So what sugar is made of? Like your table sugar.
What's it made of? Like, some
You know, you can't really see the sugar like that in nature, right? So it's not natural product. So sugar is produced from what?
Sugarcane.
Exactly. Very good. Yes. Sugarcane, and there's something called sugar beets or white beets. You know, we know beets as purple, but there are also white beets, and from white beets you can actually get a very, very how to say, very high quality sugar. Okay, but usually sugar that you have, sugar that you used to put into your coffee or tea is made of sugar cane. Okay, guys, so let's say 15 minutes break. I'll see you at 10 to finish up with this. Okay, and I'm gonna answer all your questions about the grades as well. Okay, see you.